Sure, or if you, so I have you right at the top of the agenda. Up to you, whatever you prefer. Okay, well, it's 1 o'clock, so let's get started. Perfect. Let me call this fifth meeting of the Arkansas Women's Commission to order. I first want to thank our hosts, Dr. Kathy Lloyd and Molly Morgan at Arkansas State University at Fountain Home. I want to remind our guests and participants that this meeting is open to the public. To make it as accessible as possible, it is being live streamed via YouTube and will be archived on our website at women.arkansas.gov. Dr. Lloyd, I know you had a couple of words of welcome and thanks as well, please.
Thank you so much to the campus, Molly Morgan, our chancellor, that agreed to have us here. Certainly our AD and tech folks, Lauren O'Keefe, and Jamie Stevens, and I'm probably missing some, but we know how important you are. So just thank you very much, and there was lots of it from a lot of people on this campus. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Lloyd. Also want to note that one of our commissioners, Ms. Marie Holder, is unable to join us today due to a family emergency, and out of respect for her privacy, I just asked you to keep her family in your thoughts and prayers. She did intend to join us, but was unable to at the last minute. So we're going to move quickly through some commission business, and then we will get on to the very important parts of our special guests and making sure that we're hearing from women in the communities. Draft minutes for our last meeting were sent to the commissioners for review last week. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from our last meeting on May 13th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Sharice Childers.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Sharice Jones Branch.
Thank you. Sharice and Sharice, wonderful. All right, without objection, the minutes of the May 13th meeting are adopted. Do you have any other old business for discussion, commissioners? Okay, moving right along. I'd like to invite representatives from each of our subcommittees to briefly update the commission on their work since our last meeting. I'm going to turn first to the subcommittee on research and writing.
Oh, well, go ahead. I was going to jump in, but go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
This is the one subcommittee where we have co-chairs and they're always deferential to one another. Thank you. Dr. Shields.
Well, I can go ahead and say that and I'm sorry, I'm looking at a couple of computer screens where I have my notes. We did meet with some folks just the other day to talk about the eval PLC evaluation design plan, and we got a chance to look at that plan, and we are very excited about the opportunity to work with them as we format the final plan to share with all of you. I've gotten an email, we've gotten an email about setting up a meeting for next week. I hope to be able to at least Zoom into the meeting. I will actually be abroad, so that would be the only way that I'd be able to participate. Todd?
So we're making good progress, although slow progress, on updating the 2018 Women's Foundation report. And we're making great progress on getting the survey that we still hope to field this August and September. So just a reminder to the subcommittees that if they have questions, be thinking about those. I think that's about it.
Thank you. And commissioners, you have via email, well, actually everyone has it via email. It is in hard copy for those in the room, this initial draft of the update to the 2018 Women's Foundation report. So we're excited to share that and excited about the eval PLC conversation that we had using administrative data from the state to really provide some richness to that information. All right. How about from the subcommittee on barriers to entry and retention?
Yes, so the committee basically has worked on the agenda for today. So certainly we have met and talked and had calls with single mothers. We have been counselors about barriers. We come up with the questions that you see in front of you. And we feel like it's rich on a number of topics. One unexpected thing that has been added, just one of our specialists has suggested is one of the barriers that we heavily discussed about moving forward is hunger. And so one of our participants today was there in Little Rock talking about hunger and further research
Oh, okay, yeah, so, for your awareness, and Dr. Jones Rance talks about this a lot, so I'm not divulging anything private, I hope, but, she is hard of hearing, so we'll try to speak up, and then, for our speakers as well, if you'll just, be sure to hold the mic a little closer to your mouth. Okay, and moving on to impacts of COVID-19. Melly, are you on the line to give us an update from your subcommittee?
I am. Can y'all hear me?
You can.
Okay. Well, we have met a couple of times. We've been a little slower this month, but we had Carrie McLean from the National Rural Health Association really dive into the COVID issue, as well as some of the the barriers for women in rural health. So I thought that was really enlightening for the group, and we really enjoyed her talk. In fact, it'd be great to have her for the whole group, I think. We're trying to set up a neutral kind of workshop. So what I'd like to do, we've had calls, but I think getting together and really sitting down and starting to put a pencil and pen together to, really kind of look at going through the template, and then shared a Google Doc with talking points. So really trying to get the group starting to add to that. So we're getting there. We've got a lot of great information. Committee members have really been putting in and distributing out a bunch of information. And the COVID information is just coming in regularly, nationally as well. So hopefully we'll have some good information, but that's about it.
Great, thank you, Melly. And last but not least, how about on family caregiving? Gayatri?
Thanks, Allison. Hi, everybody. Great to be with you guys today. Sorry, I can't be there in person. So updates from family caregiving. We have had, I think, 4 different speakers come and join us, have had an opportunity to learn quite a bit. I think we're quite blessed as a state to have the recent early learning task force having just convened. A lot of the findings and their research are things we would recommend ultimately go in our report and inform some of our work. And we're working on synthesizing those insights just to surface with this group because they have continued to come up. One is around the lack of availability of infant care as a unique subset of overall child care. And the second is just the way that we as a state think about access versus access to quality care, and a number of different guest speakers and experts and reports have highlighted that nuance that we actually are blessed in Arkansas to have availability of care, but when you put that lens of quality, there are definitely some specific gaps there. Our committee has been meeting in a working group style on a weekly basis. We're shifting to bi-weekly every other week. We'll have the guest speakers from Save the Children in with us next Friday, the 24th, and we'll continue on that cadence until we get through our stakeholders, speakers, and insights that we want to surface. The one piece of our puzzle we've not yet gotten to but intend to soon is the non-child care side of family care. And so if any of my fellow commissioners have recommendations of guest speakers we could invite in, or stakeholders we should be speaking to better understand care conditions for family care beyond child care, that would be really helpful. I think that's it. Is there anything else specific I'm supposed to cover?
No, ma'am, unless your subcommittee members have something else. Okay, great. So just a quick note for the subcommittees and a reminder, there is the template that Melly put together as sort of guideposts for how to submit research, either questions or things that you want to submit to the Research and Writing Committee for incorporation into the final report. You don't have to use it, but it does line out the main points that will be helpful as your subcommittees are thinking through these issues to surface to the Research and Writing Committee so they can incorporate that into the final report. And I am starting to hear some really exciting information coming out of these subcommittees. So I just want to make sure that you know that is available to you as we move through the development of the report. Are there any questions from the other commissioners or here in the room, commissioners, about any of these subcommittees and their work?
Yes, so in our committee last Friday, actually, we talked about, because I couldn't remember well whether we had talked about in any meetings or not, but I asked around and apparently we didn't talk about it. So I'm gonna ask that question right now, which is whether the subcommittee for research in writing, are we thinking about the survey to have it also in other language other than English? Okay, okay,
Great.
okay.
Okay, I see Dr. Shields shaking his head yes. They'll be the one developing and publishing that survey. So thank you for that question.
Okay.
Other questions, are there other languages? Well, I guess, Dr. Shields, what languages will it be published in? Oh, I still got you on mute.
Sorry, I'm used to Teams and Zoom. I couldn't find it. So we'll definitely be translating it to Spanish, but we've been talking about other languages as well. And so it'll probably just depend on the firm that we can get and how much they'll charge us to translate to different languages.
Wonderful.
But we're very, very open.
Yeah, and I know, Dr. Salazar, you do a lot of work on community engagement, so we welcome your thoughts on other languages that you think would be helpful. I know they would welcome that input as well. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners on the subcommittee reports? Okay, just a couple of updates from me then. Commissioners, our next meeting will be in Pine Bluff. Some of you, if you noticed the change in the schedule, the location that was originally set was going to be the generator in Pine Bluff. That location is changing. I don't have specific information for you just yet. We think we know where it will be, but I'm just waiting on a couple of things of confirmation on that. So that will be coming in the next few days. So please be on the lookout for that information. I was also very heartened and very excited that at the end of last week, the Clinton Library, Clinton School of Public Service, and the Clinton Foundation jointly have asked to host us in their space for our final meeting in November. So we're very excited to have our final meeting of this historic commission in a historic location and with the support of these important organizations. So it will be the final formal meeting. And I'm just so grateful for Dr. Jay Barth, the new director of the Clinton Library, Dr. Nikki DeFrancesco Soto, who is the relatively new dean of the Clinton School, and Ms. Stephanie Street, who's the director of the Clinton Foundation, for their collective outreach. I'll have more information for you on that November meeting as I get it as well. It is a November meeting. I apologize. It's November meeting. And then I know I've raised this a number of times in a number of previous meetings, but I am still looking for recommendations on how to engage our military community here in the state. They, as we've just discussed, tend to be a more transient community, and so a little bit harder without organization to really incorporate those women's voices. As I've mentioned to many folks before, I'm a military brat, so this is one that's particularly close to my heart, and I'm gonna recommit to finding someone to talk to about that, but always welcome suggestions on that, on how to engage with that community. And of course, if any of the commissioners have any recommendations or additional ideas for outreach, I'm happy to personally reach out to them as potential hosts or as special guests. With that, I'm going to turn the floor back over to our host, and specifically to Ms. Molly Morgan, to introduce our special guests and our speakers for the community-focused portion of our meeting. Morgan.
Kind of standing in for Dr. Lloyd. She wanted to be writing and taking notes, so she said, would you get the speakers to come up and give their reports? And so she scheduled through her committee a variety of different backgrounds of folks who work with young women, single mothers, that they understand the barriers, they understand the success stories. So at this moment, I'm going to ask some single mothers who are definitely on the path to a successful financial and emotional and every other kind of future. So I could have Valerie Davis, Kayla Barnell, and Jennifer Diedick come up and sit at this table. And we've got a few questions and they can go a little freestyle. We're going to spend about 15 minutes visiting about their barriers, what hindered them from coming on to post-secondary education. We're also going to talk about what's helped them navigate the world of post-secondary education. So the first thing I'm going to ask, would each one of you take a few minutes, 30 seconds, and kind of give a little background about your home, where you are, who you are, and what you're doing. And we'll start with Valerie.
I have 3 children.
I need you to use the mic if you don't
Oh.
mind. Yes.
I have 3 children. Their ages range from 3 to 6. I started my college journey last August, and I am in the LPN program. My children are my world and the school and stuff. I'm just excited to be in the LPN program and further my career for my children and for myself.
My name is Kayla Barnell. I am originally from Illinois. I grew up there, spent my summers here with my grandma. She lives in Gamaliel. I am 26 years old, and I have one daughter. She is 6. Her name is Harley. She is a little sass queen. She obviously did not get it from me. We currently live in Gassville. I go to school here as well. I just finished with my associate's degree in June. And I'm currently in the LPN program, which I hope to transfer to a hospital and do their LPN residency, and then a bridge to RN. I have a couple of prerequisites that I need to do before I'm able to bridge, but that is the goal. Like I said, we live in Gassville, and we kind of just are here. You know, we both go to school, we're living lives as best friends, and just trying to better ourselves as people, especially in our community.
My name is Jennifer Dudek. I am 25 years old. Halfway to 30. I am in the LPN program. I've been a single mom since my daughter was born. She's currently 3 years old. I have been in college for quite some time. I graduated with my medical coding and billing, as well as I took up phlebotomy and obviously my CNA too. I'm really excited for this journey that I started on. There has been difficulties here and there, but I think I was able to overcome them really well with the tools that I have been given. I was born and raised in Mountain Home. I've lived here all my life. I do have family in Illinois too. But I really like it here. I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow here. And I think this community is growing really well. And I'm very glad to be a part of it.
All right, thank you. So looking back, when you look back through the years and your time as a single mother, what barriers have kind of been thrown in front of you? What have you faced that you thought, if I could just get through this, I can make it?
One of the biggest barriers for me is childcare. I live in Midway, and 2 of my children attend Flippin School District. So I drive almost 30 minutes there every morning. And then my daughter goes to daycare here in Mountain Home. I drive her all the way to Cranfield, and then I come here for class. And that's the biggest thing is I get childcare vouchers, and Career Pathways does help me with childcare and stuff like that. But just and transportation, but with the driving, and I mean, it's an hour drive, hour and a half sometimes, and just having 3 kids in 2 different school districts is a pretty big barrier for me.
I would have to agree with the childcare barrier. That's one of the biggest things for me, along with the financial aspect. Going to school and having kids and being a single mom is not easy by any means. And with me being so far away from home per se, because I don't feel like Illinois is my home, it never has. My family resides there, but I don't really have any sort of help. My grandma is elderly. My grandpa just passed away in November. And so them living in Gamaliel, if I need, like during the summer, we would, let me back up. Whoops, sorry. Over the summer, my daughter stays with her dad in Illinois. So summer is not really a big issue, but during the school year, having to bring her to school in Cotter and after school, because I work at night, and having class during the day, I have to work at night. You know, I tried taking 2 months off of work in the beginning of the LPN program in January, and it just wasn't viable. It just doesn't work. So I went back to work. I work at night, and in order to have childcare, I have to drive all the way to Gamaliel. And I don't know if anybody has noticed, but gas prices are not cheap. And I drive a 98 Jeep Cherokee with a fuel injector out, and that is just terrible. So just all around childcare and the financial aspect has just been really, really hard. And I feel like I deal with it okay, but like today, I had $3 in my bank account and an eighth of a tank of gas. I made it through school this week, but I still got to get to work tomorrow. It's hard.
I mean, I agree with the whole financial part. My biggest lean, not lean, but would be financial, and childcare too in certain ways. But financially, because there isn't really a certain program that helps you out financially. So if you have no credit, you can't apply for a school loan. You don't have any family to help you co-sign for that school loan. So what do? You can't get it. So then you just rely on scholarships and grants. I mean, you have FAFSA. FAFSA covers your tuition, but it doesn't cover, but it doesn't cover the portion of where am I going to buy food? How am I going to put gas in my car? How am I going to, just be able to live life somehow, other than school 24/7. You don't have a lot of access to that. So you have to try to apply for all these scholarships, and each one wants something different. And it's almost like you're competing so much that you forget that you're all supposed to work together as a team in a way. And so the scholarships do help sometimes, but none of them are like super organized to where, these are all the scholarships you can apply for. And then you can't have more than 1 or 2 scholarships. Otherwise, you don't get the rest of them because they think you're getting too much income, which you're not. I know I've had it come back on work hardcore, and it hurts me. It hurts my daughter. I give her the best life that I can, but I have to work really hard to do so. And I think giving single mothers that ability to either apply for loans or get better grants that help you through school, not just your tuition, but your finances, your bills, your car insurance, your house insurance, just everything. We have so much on our shoulders at all points in time that we forget that, we're people too, and we need a little bit of time, to just chill out. And we can't though, because we're always worried.
Can I steal that for a second? Yes, you can. I read something somewhere the other day. I think it was on Facebook, and it was sort of along the lines of mothers wake up and somebody needs them. They go to work, somebody needs them. They come home, somebody needs them. Everybody needs us, but where is everybody when we need them? And, it kind of really hit home, because I feel that every day. I wake up, somebody needs something from me, but there isn't anybody that I can turn to when I need something.
For the next question. Okay. Is there one specific thing that encouraged you to further your education? What is the drive that makes you continue on?
My children. Honestly, my children are why I'm here today. I want them to be able to look at me and say, Mom, you did it. You did it for us. You did it for you. Especially their education. I would love for them to go to college, when they graduate high school. I want them to be able to know what it is to work hard at what you have, especially with school. School's hard, and to keep furthering your life and your career, your degrees, everything. And I just want them to be able to do that too. And I want to be able to show them that you can do this. I did it, you can do it.
I also have to agree that my child is my biggest motivator, because I remember being 16. I was a big partier in high school. I didn't care about grades. I didn't care about anything. was kind of on strict house rules because my mom didn't agree with any of my choices. And so after I turned 18, I moved here and I started my first semester at ASU. I moved here with my high school boyfriend who didn't have a job, a license, or a car. We lived with my grandma for a few weeks and I couldn't handle that. I wasn't allowed to take a nap, big on naps. So we moved into a trailer in Midway, and I was 17 at the time. I graduated high school a year early, and I worked part-time at a diner in Bull Shoals. And I think I made $3 an hour cash, plus whatever tips there was. And I would drive from Midway to Bull Shoals and have to take care of a house payment, a grown man, and myself while going to school 4 days a week, full-time, because I was in class seated full-time. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And nobody wanted to hire me or give me any sort of help being from out of town, which really sucked. So I dropped out my first semester and I moved back home and I had my daughter and I started school again. And it was really hard even there trying to come back to school because, again, the financial aspect. Fast forward 4 years ago, I started back at ASU and I'm by myself. I have my daughter and it was really, school really hadn't like clicked with me yet. I hadn't had that big like I gotta do something. I was just like, yeah, I'll go to school, I'll figure it out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So fast track, 2 years ago, I started the phlebotomy program. I wanted to work at the hospital. I got all my prerequisites done. I finished that course and I started working at the hospital. And I was like, well, what am I going to do now? I've already done this. And then I moved on to, I never wanted, beforehand in high school when they're like, what do you want to do, Kayla? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea, but I do know that I don't want to be a nurse. I do not want to be a nurse. I thought it was too broad for me. I wanted something specialized. I don't know. I just never wanted to be a nurse. So after phlebotomy, I'm in the hospital. I'm like, I want to be a nurse. So I started prerequisites for the LPN program. I got denied in the fall. And then that was a no. That was a no for me. I was not going to get rejected again. So I come back, got it in spring, and we are just working really hard. And graduating with my 2-year degree that I didn't even know that I was going to get was really, really, really hard. I never thought that I would, after these past 3 years of taking classes here and there, I never thought that I would have an actual college degree in something. Technical certificates are one thing, but an actual college degree that my family came and watched commencement for, it was just absolutely unreal. And I know, it almost seems like a 2-year degree. Oh, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's a big deal. My mom was the first one to get a 2-year degree, but it was also later in her life. And just her being so proud of me, you actually did it. And she's been begging me to go to school forever and ever and ever. And finally, she's like, we did it. You did it. And so now she's like, what are you going to do now? I'm like, I'm just going to keep going, just got to keep going. And my daughter is just the best person. She, without even knowing, she supports me every day. And all I want to do is just keep working harder. That was long, sorry.
I just want to add that I think my biggest rooter is my daughter. She cheers me on, even though she's 3. I can tell we have this connection. And also I'm doing it for myself. I mean, call me selfish, but I'm doing this. I'm rolling and I'm fighting and I'm working as hard as I can. Just, I'm doing it, and I'm doing it for me too. And I think it's very important to do things for yourself. And it's just one of the things. I don't want to have to struggle my whole life. I don't want my daughter to not be able to go to Disneyland one day. I want to lay on the beach in Florida. It's just my dreams. So that's why.
And we have 1 minute left. We could go all day, but 1 minute. Okay. What would you, what steps could community take? Could the commission take? What steps could they take to make it easier for those who follow in your footsteps?
The
the one thing that I'm gonna touch upon is I feel like as a domestic violence survivor, when I first started college, my ex was wanting me to quit college, to stay home with the kids more. And I, did not want to do that. I want to stay in college. And I feel like maybe like Serenity House helped me, and like domestic violence shelters, anything like that. Like, cause single moms, especially, like, I didn't think I could ever stay in college being a single mom without him, and so I think that's definitely something on that to look into.
The community and the commission, I think, would really benefit us by helping us be able to stay at home with our children while bettering ourselves in programs like the ones that we're in at this college, because all we want to do is be better. We just want to be better, and we want to be there for our kids and help our community. So I think it would benefit from our community and the commission to help us attain those goals.
15 seconds.
I can get quick. I think what could really benefit us is maybe having opportunities to apply for loans or different scholarships that we have access to, that we don't need a co-signer for, that we ourselves independently, we can do this. We don't need somebody behind our back holding our hand the entire time. I mean, we're all adults, we're treated like adults. So we should be able to do adult things, like get a loan if we need, that's about it. I don't want to take
She is the Arkansas State University on campus career pathways initiative facilitator.
In the meantime, one of the single women who was not able to her story. So while
Pretty much her story. Sherry Powell was very, very disappointed. She could not be here, and she said, I really want to share my story. And the reason why it's so important to read these young women's stories and hear what they say, you have to see these girls are working. I mean, they're working, they're going to school. We want workforce. We want good people in our society. They're doing it. What can we do to improve that? So take a card with you, read the story, and read between the lines if you would. So now Brianne works, she helps young single parents, men and women, with financial access just tell us what Career Pathways covers.
Yes.
You tell us.
So Career Pathways is a federally funded program here, not only on this campus, but also statewide at community colleges. It's only available for two-year universities. We are funded by TANF, which is Transitional Assistance for Needy Families. And not only do we support these amazing women, and all three of them are not only nursing students, but they're also Career Pathway students, which I have to follow up from those amazing stories, so thank you. But we are serving currently on this campus right above 100 students. Not only are they single moms, they're also married moms, there's single dads, there's married dads. We serve anyone below the 250% federal poverty guideline. So about 45% of our students are single moms, and then 47 or 57% of that 45% are below that 100% federal poverty guideline. So that is between, for a family of 2 to 4, it is between $17,000 and $26,000 that they're making a year. So they are definitely ones that we're here to assist them. Not only do we assist them with different financial aspects, such as like transportation assistance, we offer them 52 cents a mile from their home address to school and back home for the days that they're seated on campus. Those funds just recently this past year started being directly deposited to them, to their bank accounts. Different programs statewide, some are checks written to them each month, some are direct deposit, some are gas cards. The reason why we specifically decided to go with direct deposit was if you decide to do a gas card, they can only do it with one specific business that we can find. So by giving them direct deposit, especially with the influx of prices, they can go to whoever's the cheapest in town to be able to get the most out of their transportation assistance. The other thing that we can help with is tuition and book assistance. That one typically, we don't have a whole lot of tuition book assistance because Pell has done an amazing job with most of our students. And then we also help with course-related supplies. So for these specific nursing ladies, that's anything from their NCLEX testing fees to their clinical supplies, so their stethoscopes, their scrubs, anything like that we can assist with. Childcare assistance, they just recently redid our policy. Before, it was for the days and times that you were seated on campus in class. So it wasn't able to cover any type of online program or anything like that. So it made it really difficult for them. And I know a couple of them can vouch for it. But they recently just redid our policy, and it allows us to serve them based on how many credit hours they're enrolled. So that includes the online classes. If they're enrolled in 9 hours or more, they can get 5 days of childcare paid for through their licensed facility. Anything between the 6 and 8 range is 3 days, and then anything less than 5 is 1 day of childcare covered. So we are able to help so many more students with this policy change. And then the most recent incentive and assistance program that Career Pathways initiated this past year was EdPays. What EdPays is, it's a program designed to help with any unexpected expense that students have within their semester. They do have to be below the 150% poverty guideline, which most of our students are. We're able to serve a lot of them with EdPays. But EdPays, initially when they sign up with Career Pathways, they get $100 deposited to them right off the bat. At midterms, they get $300 deposited to them, pending satisfactory progress and attendance and things like that. And then they get $300 at end of term once their grades are complete and their GPA looks great. That is deposited to them each semester that they're enrolled in their program. So for example, the longest program that we have is our nursing program. If they start with CNA with us and go all the way to their RN, they're looking at 2 to 3 years of that program every semester, summer, spring, fall. So that is a fairly new program that is amazing, that has helped these ladies significantly because, like I said, it can help with any unexpected expense, whether it's a car repair, whether it's additional course supplies that maybe we can't cover, anything, whether it's bills, gas, any extra, anything they can use that money for. So that is significantly helping them.
So I'm going to kind of combine the next two questions because you sort of hit on your best practices.
Yes. Yes.
Things that make a difference. And you talked about the financial aspect. What other elements do you see that hold single mothers or single fathers? What other elements hold them back that you can see?
Yeah, so specifically in this area, and the ladies touched base on it too, but in this area, because we are rural, childcare options for our students are very limited. I know that they had touched base on below the age of 2, so the infant care. With us being rural, Mountain Home is primarily the place where most of your daycares within 35, 45 miles reside. Only a few daycares in town are able to take infants, and they can usually only take up to 8 infants at once. So that is something that is fairly difficult. I know I'm not initially from here, and when I moved here, that was the hardest adjustment to find, was trying to find childcare for your child below the age of 2. Once they hit 3, your options open up much more because your school districts are able to take them into their preschool program. But below that, there's just not a whole lot. There is also facilities in town that are not childcare voucher. They don't take childcare vouchers. So there's a couple of our students that we cover their childcare expenses because they don't take the childcare vouchers. Just based on when they open, new ownership, things like that. So that's a little difficult. And then, like Valerie touched base on a little bit, having resources available to them in one place. So I started Googling before I came to this, just single mom assistance in the state of Arkansas. And there is not one specific place that says if you need health assistance, go to this website, which could transfer you to DHS. If you need food assistance, here's based on your area where you could go, all kinds of things like that. I think one general space would help them significantly find resources.
Thank you. While Brianne leaves, I'm going to ask Mountain Home Public School counselors to come forward. We'll have a big question time at the end. So, that'll help with our time. So we have Mrs. Kara Coleman and Mrs. Heather Hatman. I'm going to let them introduce what they do in their general day, and then we'll start with some questions.
I don't really know if it was general day. High school counselor. My name's Kara Coleman. I'm a counselor at the high school. Our high school is currently 10th through 12th grades, and scheduling, social emotional problems, planning for the future, scholarships, kind of just runs.
I'm Heather Hatman. I have been a school counselor in the past, high school and middle school. This year I was in a new role as social emotional learning and school-based mental health support specialist. So I helped our therapists on our campuses, helped our school counselors on our campuses. So again, not really a set day. So we kind of like that it doesn't get boring ever in our jobs.
So what do you feel like are the best practices that y'all been able to instate to make your, I know both of y'all and y'all work hard and y'all have a lot of pride in your job. So what are your best practices in that job, your roles?
I think we have a good partnership with ASU, and that's part of what helps our students stay in school is because of all the offerings like Tech Center, the nursing programs that they can do, the CNA programs that they can do. We also have a lot of things that we offer. We're a charter school. So we're able to do work studies where our kids that need to go work can go work during the day and not have a full schedule when they're a senior, as long as they've met all of their credits for graduation. We have a lot of students that need to help support their whole family. So they're going to work to help mom and dad or grandma, whoever they're living with, pay the bills. So through work study program or apprenticeships, we also have apprenticeships where they can go and work for a company, and that turns into a full-time job after graduation.
Okay, for both of you. All right. So what barriers do you see prevent students from moving on to post-secondary education? Which would also kind of cover what barriers cause them to drop out of high school?
Can you first describe what your graduation rate is at the high school?
I would say we only had about 3 in our this past year. And I've heard that was.
Yeah, I will say our alternative school, Guyberry, has a night school that they have started. So any student who either has dropped out or is about to drop out, we're able to do night school if they need to work during the day. So we have night school options as well.
I had one specific student that it was right after spring break this year, and she was like, I can't do it anymore, and she graduated from high school. So her mom was so about that.
Barriers. Why would students drop out? And what keeps them from going on? Because with all the credit classes, y'all really get them involved early on. What stops them from crossing over?
I think that one barrier that we see is a lack of maybe education in the home. So maybe they can come from a home that they didn't have a lot of high school graduates or college graduates. Teen pregnancy would be another one. For both sides. And I think it's just if they've had multiple failures. So, the statistics, if they have a failing grade starting in 9th grade, it's really hard to stay on track because you're having to take that class again as a sophomore, and then you're not really getting into some of your other electives that you want to take. So you're already kind of behind. But we have got credit recovery for that, but it really kind of puts them behind where their peers are.
Just like when we met, we talked some about the paperwork and the pencil paper that they don't always have, that they can't get, like birth certificates and stuff, depending on their situation. That was something so eye-opening to me about some of the barriers that I would have never thought of. You just mentioned that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was maybe towards like financial aid.
Yes.
with kids.
Yes.
Well, it was for the barriers keeping them from graduating from high school or going on to post-secondary. But we had met earlier, and one of the barriers too is if they're for financial aid, if someone's not there helping them fill that out, that's something that they struggle with because of like the paperwork.
I would say with FAFSA as well, some of our parents don't want to fill out the FAFSA. They don't want people to know their tax information. So then a student, if they, live with that parent, what are they supposed to do for financial aid help with FAFSA?
So do you have any ideas to help make the transition from secondary school to post-secondary school easier? What would enable all students to be able to access? You kind of just hit on it, completing the FAFSA, getting to scholarships. What would help them?
I think more help, can they do the FAFSA on their own if a parent is not able to? And I don't know if that's an answer, if there is an answer for that. And I think more programs, we have the college career coaches that we've had for a few years. That's a grant, and that's a great asset. We've got 2 of those at our high school. One thing that holds them back with every grant, you guys know that work probably for the state, how much paperwork is involved in reporting. So if they had less of that, they could spend more time helping our kids. So, that's a thing to look at. The programs like Teen Girls Go to College that ASU does here, those things, if we could have more of those and have them, like more students be able to be involved, I think that would help.
Any more questions for our high school folks? Don't forget the outcome promise.
I have one, Andrea Lee. If you can hear me, I know the sound isn't the greatest. We are having trouble hearing you, but can you hear?
You can, Andrea, go ahead.
My question would be, what trends are you seeing specifically? And are you encouraging kids, especially from rural areas, are you able to express to them that getting a job, going to a 2-year and 4-year are all kind of going to benefit them? Or is the main focus just on going to a 4-year school?
I would say that I personally, it's both ways. With our tech center, that's such a huge blessing for our students. It's with welding and mechanics and automobile, trying to think what else. Medical programs. And so it's really hard for me when a student says, I don't have a plan, I'm like, you have so many options. Like, please just find, what is your interest? Along with our internship programs and our apprenticeship, if they just have a little bit of an interest in anything, we've got some fantastic faculty that will point them in the right direction. So I would say that the majority of them have a goal, have a direction.
And Julia brought up a great point. We have the Mountain Home Promise, which some other high schools have in partnership with ASU. So a student can go here tuition free. So that helps a lot of students that maybe didn't have a chance or some kind of, financial aid package at another college. So when we did college signing, and we do that in front of our whole school, so that way our younger kids can see that. The ASU signing table was huge, so we always have to, put, I don't know, like 46 at that table compared to the 1 or 2 that are going to some different 4-year colleges. And I would say we had a lot of kids that go to 4-year colleges, and that semester they came back. So even, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They went and tried something, but at least they know they can come back to something next year for them in our community.
How is the Mountain Home Promise funded? Who funds that?
It is through donors through our Mountain Home Education Foundation.
The first dollar or after any scholarship?
That's after any other.
Thank you, appreciate y'all so much. She's gonna talk to us about her. This is a recently graduated ASU student. And she's done several studies on a variety of topics, and we wanted her to come and tell about her research and the barriers.
Let me just recognize it. Senator Elliott, we see that your hand is up. If you'll give us this speaker and then come back to you, if that's okay? Or did you have a question for the previous panel? Okay, I'm guessing leg hand gestures. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. That's it's fine to do it later. Sorry about that.
This last month was graduation season. Maybe you had the privilege of attending college graduation for your daughter or your granddaughter. I want you to picture the graduating class of 2022 smiling in their robes, headed into a new chapter of their life. Yet, as we discovered last year in Arkansas, 1 in every 3 of those students is food insecure. 1 in every 3 of those students is going hungry. How do we know this? Throughout the fall 2021 semester, honor students from 9 different colleges across the state met weekly to discuss the problem of food insecurity in Arkansas. We talked with state legislators, nonprofits, and academics, but we didn't want to stop there. Our students created a survey assessing what food insecurity looks like on Arkansas campuses. While the survey only ran for a month, collectively, we had already reached almost 4,000 students, and the results were horrifying. A third of the students surveyed said that in the last 12 months, they had been worried that they would run out of food before they had money to buy more. Another third said that they skipped meals or cut meal sizes, either sometimes or often, because there was not enough money for food. Lastly, another third said that they had experienced bodily weakness, again, either sometimes or often, due to limited food intake in the last year. And for some subpopulations, such as first-generation students, community college students, and students who are single mothers, these numbers can be much higher. When students are hungry, they don't go to college. When students are hungry, they don't even apply. When students don't obtain an education, they have a harder time entering the workforce. And when our population is hungry, the future of our state is destroyed. While many organizations are fighting to get more women into STEM, it's a necessary goal, but we can't fill workforce positions if we can't first fill stomachs. While our survey didn't highlight specific workforce positions or trades, I do have several years of anecdotal experience about this, as I am currently attending nursing school in Arkansas. Each year, we have students confess that the weekly meal that local churches bring is their only hot meal each week. Other students profess that the majority of their meals come from the ASUH food pantry. One individual in particular would buy the half-off rotisserie chickens at Walmart and make that their breakfast, lunch, and dinner for several days, because that was all they could afford. High-demand work programs like these are often expensive and fast-paced, meaning that students have to quit working if they want to pass their classes. However, this leaves them with even less money to pay for their meals. Personally, for me, gas, meals, and tuition are so expensive that I now sleep on an air mattress in the storage room of my grandmother's house. I can no longer afford to stay at my parents' house because I live in such a rural area. And the money I save on gas goes back into my food bill each week, and some critics may say that's just the problem. But I'm here to tell you that it is not. I am 18, I have been in college since I was 16, and at several points I've been working 3 jobs to support myself while going to college. My fiance has just recently joined the Army as an engineer to help provide a better life for us in the future. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. My parents did not even achieve a junior high school education. And I can't tell you the number of women who have the same stories that I have. I can't tell you the number of women that I've worked with or high school students that I've talked to who said that they aren't going to a trade because it's expensive and they have to feed their kids. There is a massive shortage of women inside and on trades. The more pervasive food insecurity is, the more women that never move out of poverty, never earn an education, and never enter the workforce. The entire state suffers from food insecurity economically, socially, and psychologically. So let's take a step back for just a minute and talk about those economic impacts and numbers. We did some calculations, and I won't bore you by going through here. But students at University of Arkansas Fayetteville in our honors consortium found out that hunger in students and the resultant leave of college came to a $21 to $27 million loss of income potential. In just 1 year, the amount of money that could have been made would have been able to cover nearly 20,000 people in need of SNAP for 1 year. This is just the impact of one graduating class at one university. Imagine if we applied that statewide. But there is hope. As devastating as these numbers sound, we are not going to rest until the future is changed for women and students around the state. Here are just a few actions colleges and local nonprofits are taking to combat food insecurity. The Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, who were generous enough to host our summit with state legislators last month, provided each college that participated in the summit with a $1,000 grant to improve their campus food pantry. University of Arkansas Fayetteville implements a program known as Razorback Food Recovery, where they take leftovers from the dining hall, sort through the food, and donate it to local nonprofits. A-State does grocery card giveaways. Our colleges are also changing with the times, creating TikTok accounts to spread awareness and selling laptop stickers that help fight hunger. ASUMH has certainly not been idle either. We have been meeting with the North Central Arkansas Food Bank to discuss how to train staff and faculty to help food insecure students, how to broaden our variety of food offered, and how to involve every single student group on campus so that no one is left hungry. In short, we've been pretty busy. One more quick story before I wrap up. I have a story from a dear friend of mine that I was given permission to share. Her name and details have been changed to provide her anonymity. When I read the statistics about 1 in 3 college students going hungry to my family, my mother paused and looked at me. You're right, she said. You and your brother haven't necessarily experienced that, but your friend Chelsea has. That's the 1 in 3. Chelsea's mother and father were blue-collar workers, but like just about everybody else, they weren't prepared for the housing crash in 2008. As Chelsea and I got to know each other, she began to confide in me about her childhood and her reluctance to go to college. She spoke of long days without needing to save money. She spoke of her bodies wanting to know that this would cost. When she came to my house for dinner, it took her weeks to accept that it was okay if she put 2 slices of cheese on her sandwich instead of just 1. It was only a few cents difference, but sometimes that was all the difference that mattered to her. Chelsea had planned to join the Air Force instead of going to college, not because she wanted to, but because she felt like it was her only escape. But we made a pact. We would get through college together, we would not go into debt, and we would be able to eat real meals when we wanted to. Chelsea moved to California to go to college after taking community classes at Mountain Home online. She graduated this past year with magna cum laude status. She now works, has a family, and is an amazing cook. She's doing well. But Chelsea is one of many students, and she's one of few who is able to change the situation. Everybody here knows Chelsea, and some of us probably are one, myself included. She truly does have it in her because she could be any one of us. She could be the girl sitting next to you in class, and you may not know. I want to leave you with a few words. Several weeks ago, I was asked for a quote by a local reporter, and this is what I wrote to her. If you are hungry, I want you to know that this is not a problem. You are not alone, and you do not have to live in silence. There is no shame in reaching out for help. I'm so proud of the students that have come together to fix this issue, and I'm confident that we will not stop until food insecurity is no longer an issue in Arkansas. We will hold as many summits, write as many letters, and reach as many people as it takes. We are not waiting for Arkansas to change. We're changing Arkansas, and we are bringing every single person with us. Thank you.
We will have some questions if Emily Boyd would come to the front. So we talked about from getting your education, hunger, high school to college. We invited Emily Boyd. She is a tax and financial accountant for North Arkansas Electric Cooperative. COVID changed her work schedule tremendously, and I know Dr. Boyd's panel was very interested in how remote work changed the lives for many women. I'm going to say the table I was sitting back, there was a discussion before Emily even came about remote work. And what's positive for some is not positive for all, but we need to look at all angles. And I thought you would appreciate to hear how organizations such as North Arkansas Electric Co-op has been able to manage keeping all their facilities, all things running. So Emily, if you would tell just a minute, a little bit about yourself, and then start and tell us what pushed your company to allow remote work.
So I grew up in Mountain Home. I took many classes through ASU before attending college elsewhere. And upon graduation, I lived in Little Rock and worked in public accounting for about 5 years before my husband and I moved back here. In public accounting, I did taxes, and I had the extreme busy where I would be in the office for, I mean, it was 80 plus hours a week. I was in the office before Starbucks opened a lot of days. But I came up here and I found a job at the electric co-op and absolutely loved it. I was in the office full time, but just couldn't ask for a better place to work. And then COVID hit, which caused us to go remote. We are extremely cautious. And I was completely from home for 2 years. They were very strict on not having gatherings in the office. Obviously, linemen can't work remote, so they were in the office some, but just very strict rules on that, which was hard because we are a very kind of family-oriented type business. But then in March of this year, we kind of got remote contracts worked up to where I'm at home for 3 days a week, and then I'm in the office 2 days a week. Different departments have their own kind of schedule that they worked out, but that's what accounting has done, which is what I work in.
So do you have children?
I do. I have a 4-5-year-old son, William, and I have a 20-month-old daughter, Caroline. So she was born in 2020. So pretty much my full pregnancy was during the pandemic. It was very nice. I could wear leggings every single day that I was pregnant with her. So because I was working at home when she was born, I actually went back from maternity leave much earlier than I would have. My boss has pretty much said, as long as you're getting your work done and you're available during work hours, you can work the schedule that works for your lifestyle. So when she was 7 weeks old, I said, I think I can handle going back to work. She still sleeps a lot during the day. So I went back to work earlier than I would have, and I might work at 5 in the morning for a couple hours and then take a break when she was awake and then work a few more hours later that day. So it was very nice during that time.
So how are the metrics measured? How does your company measure if your workload is completed?
So with accounting, it's kind of going to show up if someone's not doing their job. We have very divided duties. For example, whatever people paid on their bills yesterday, the first thing I do every morning is I post it to financials. Then someone else at the end of the month is who reconciles all of our bank statements. The same person can't do those two jobs just for checks and balances. So if I'm not posting my cash, it's going to show up whenever he does his bank reconciliations. And if he doesn't get his bank reconciliations done, then I can't run financials. So different departments have different metrics, but with accounting, it's pretty much going to show up if you don't do
it. So do you ever see a time that you would want to return to work full
time? No. I do like that I'm in the office 2 days a week now. We had the option for a few months to go in if we wanted to. And I would say to myself, it would really be nice to get out and see some people, but just making yourself get up that extra hour earlier to get ready and get kids out the door, which my kids, they go to daycare every day just because I could not get any work done if they were at home with me. But it's nice to go in and have interaction, but it's also nice to have that flexibility at home. I actually say my productive days are when I'm at home and my social days are when I'm in the office, because there's
really a lot more distractions from other people when I'm in the office. So it's kind of a nice balance, but.
That's the end of our panel. We didn't allow time for questions with Cassie. We have Emily that you can ask questions. The counselors, y'all kind of seen the whole gamut, career pathways, single mothers. Do y'all have any questions that you want to ask?
Can I first go to Joyce? Do you want to go ahead and ask your question now?
Yes, it's more of a comment, but there's a question wrapped up in it. Because I know that in high schools, it's really difficult to fit everything in and get students who are struggling to graduation. And I was just curious if any of the folks who are in that arena, especially in high school and dealing with colleges as well, if they've thought about using schools of innovation as ways to deliver services to parents or even students who need different ways of having their needs met academically and not have to fit into the rigidity of the way things are now. Because I worked on that legislation to get it passed to be sure schools could figure out different ways of delivering what students need. And by deciding in their own communities, what kind of school do we need? And so that's just the question if anybody's thought about that. If you haven't, maybe think about it, because you can find the legislation on schools of innovation on the legislative website, or I can talk about it somewhere else at another time. And another piece of legislation that's out there, I've forgotten exactly what the title of it is, but it's a Student Re-Engagement Act. And I worked with a member of the State Board of Education that's where I got the idea. There are students, somebody mentioned a student, if a student has failed, maybe made an F in the 9th grade, they're probably not going to catch up. But there should be ways for them to catch up. And that piece of legislation would allow, and you don't have to do anything but just do it, would allow if I am behind maybe 3 or 4 credits that I need to have, and I'm not going to catch up. I'm 16 years old. I still have 9th grade credits, and I'm not going to come back to school. That you can fashion a plan for that particular student to be able to do what she needs to do to get out of high school with a diploma, not even a GED, but a diploma. That's a flexibility that's out there that I think would be so helpful to so many women that we just aren't using. And Allison is probably something we should explore later, but I didn't know if people knew about that or if anybody was using it. So.
Thank you, Senator. Well, Kara, Heather, maybe you guys are the best ones to answer this, whether these are things that you're aware of or you're exposing your students to. I mean, with a 98% graduation rate, it's hard to do a lot better, so congratulations. But for other, I just wondering, are you familiar with these programs, or this is maybe something we can push out there further? Okay. Okay, great. So just because they don't have the microphone, Senator, they were not aware, would love to know more about it. So we will take that commission as well. Thank you.
I'll hold that.
I want to give our folks in the room as well. Okay, Aprilla?
My question was, okay. My question was for the single mother panel. I appreciate you sharing your experiences, but my question is, I noticed the trend that you all chose to go into nursing. Why was that a desirable goal for you as opposed to maybe doing something different? Did you feel like the barrier wouldn't be as great with that particular profession? Why did you pick it?
I went into the profession of nursing because I wanted to give back to my community. You know, they've just been so great. I mean, just ASU in general has just been really great. And I graduated first with my medical coding and billing and realized you can't find the work around here. And you have to have over a year's experience to have a job online that will hire you. They will not hire you if you don't have any sort of experience, unless it's just a family-owned company. And there's only one around here like that. And people have been there for a long time. They're very secure in their careers. I think the nursing career, you have a lot of growth. You know, LPN, you can bridge your RN, you can do your BSN, you can do your master's, your doctorate, you can go into nurse practitioning, you can go into surgery, you can go into ICU. There's just such a broad amount of different variables and different ways you can learn and different areas you can work in, that there is something in there for everybody. And around here, nursing is the big thing. I mean, there's nursing homes everywhere. We have BRMC, there's clinics all up and down the street. You know, when you drive through town, you see a clinic here, a clinic there. And let's face it, since COVID, nurses are shorthanded. There's not a lot of nursing staff. And I think it's important for good nurses, good hearts, and that work hard and that want to see improvement in the community from the hospital to make that difference. And that's why I chose it. Okay.
That's literally.
I would agree with the vast opportunities that this community has to offer in the medical field. And personally, just an acquired passion for healthcare and being able to help people and also be aware of my own health as well.
Thank you. And I am Chelsea too.
Any other questions from our commissioners, from other members in the regular committee, from each other, from staying in the same community? That's a good opportunity to learn about each other too. How about from our commission? I'm hearing some references to COVID-19, obviously some impacts there, family caregiving. Any questions from our subcommittee chairs or their members?
You have one. Dr. Jones Branch.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Jones Branch.
Oh, that's quite all right. I have not, even though I'm in Jonesboro, I have not been up in that part of the state before. How does the pay, I heard that the nursing profession is a big deal. How does the pay compare to the cost of living in the area?
I would say, as a former employee of Bachelor Regional Medical Center, that the pay is, in that entity itself, is lower than the rest of the state and even the community, because private practices and other medical entities that are not a part of the BRMC have higher pay rates. And even though there was an increase in starting wages and certain sign-on bonuses for different areas within the hospital have been implemented, it still is subpar.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So if you work at BRMC, their starting wage for an LPN is, I think, 17 to 18 an hour, whereas the surrounding nursing homes that are owned by Reliance start you out anywhere from 20 to 22 an hour, which is still very low for an LPN in your skill set, I think. And it's very low here. And the cost of living here just continues to go up. I know that they say that we're a low cost town. I mean, sure, in some cases we are, but our groceries are expensive too. Our gas is expensive as well. I mean, we have just as much expense here as, you know, other jobs do. I mean, or other places do. If you look at our jobs here, you know, they might pay less, but we still pay just as much in groceries and everything else. Like, the cost of living is just increasing no matter where you're at. And we're all at a standstill with our wages, even not just in nursing, but in any field.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I will add, I know I talk a lot, I'm so sorry. I will add that one point is that I'm a part-time server, a restaurant server, and I make more than even experienced LPNs and sometimes even RNs in this community, which I think is really bad.
Any other questions? Any other questions? It sounds like you generally had generally positive experiences from the remote work perspective. You mentioned, for example, that some folks couldn't work remotely. So can you also talk a little bit from your perspective of how your management navigated that inequity among those people that could work from home and those or remotely those who could not?
I will say mostly our accounting department, we all did fairly well. We had a little advantage in that our department was split between 2 locations already, but we had to work together before COVID. So it was somewhat remote just because we were in 2 different places but worked together. So when we went home, it wasn't much different other than we had to be self-motivated with no one else around. Other departments like our customer service area, if they weren't answering their phones,
then they had to be back in the office more. And like I said, accounting is home more than any other department, just because we did work so well doing that. But it's kind of, if it showed that you weren't doing your job, then you're back in the office more now.
Does anyone in this room not have to go into a physical workspace where they were among other people? Yes. Like, did you have to go into the office? Were you around or were you
with the hour?
And Senator Elliott, I saw another question there about career pathways. So I'm going to hand, I'm going to let you ask your question directly on Senator Elliott, would you like to add? There you go.
You want me to ask it orally? Is that what you're saying? I didn't understand.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was curious about the career pathway program, if it is in any way, in an overall way, indexed to the cost of living. Because I just don't, I mean, I'm familiar with the program. I'm not familiar with that aspect. It seems that for transportation, there may be some indexing going on, but I wonder about the rest of it.
Yes, ma'am. So with the transportation specifically, we're given those policies at the state level. So the state level issues, we actually just recently bumped up to 52 cents. Initially, we were 42 cents, but when gas prices started to climb, they bumped us up to 52 cents a mile, and then it maxed us out at $2.75 a month for students. As far as the other things, really, we don't put necessarily an exact price on our childcare because each facility is different. Depending on if they're full-time or part-time. And then as far as EdCase goes, EdCase was something that was issued down at the state level, or issued up at the state level for the amounts that they gave us, the 100, 300, 300, and then the 500.
Is that adequate?
If you want my honest opinion for the area that we live in, it's difficult. Coming from not this area. I came from northern Missouri, and this area was a significant adjustment to live wise as far as income and things like that. Like these ladies were saying, as far as how much they make and how much they will make outside of degree and outside of their academic adventure. It is an adjustment, and I think I hope that eventually career pathways will be able to increase what we can give our students, because in the area that we live in, it's just not enough, in my opinion. I wish we could help more.
All right, thank you.
Wow.
You have a question, Dr. Childers?
Today, when they migrate, very loud, which I think. My question is for you, Emily. I think it's important, something that you said was very important when we talk about remote work. Oftentimes we think of remote work as an opportunity for that parent to stay at home and work, and then also be able to spend that time at home doing and finding ways to bridge challenges. So what I mean by that is oftentimes when we think, oh, I'm going to get to work from home, that means that you don't need to worry about childcare because you're at home and your child can stay at home with you and then you can work. But that was one of the things that became very obvious to us in the Division of Workforce Services was the challenge of not just our employees that were working from home, which we did have a subset of those working from home, but also those that we were talking to that were at home receiving benefits, but obviously didn't have childcare, but trying to work while they're taking care of children at the same time. So what I heard you say, which I think was so important, was that you love working remotely, but yet your children go to childcare. So I think that's important. That's a really important point because yes, it gave you the flexibility and allowed you to have that flexibility and do
the things that you need to do as a mother, but yet also recognizing the fact that you are a mother, but also you're a wage earner. And so you had to make accommodations for your child or children. So was it a challenge for you to find childcare? Because obviously you had to find childcare for one that you didn't have before the pandemic. And then the other, your other child, I believe you said is 4, soon to be 5. And so I assume at that time that you went to remote work, you had to find childcare for that child, which was during the pandemic was very difficult because so many of the childcare facilities were closed. And if they did open up, they were constantly having to send all the children home because of COVID, and then back, and then home, and then back. So I'd like to hear your experience.
I will say with remote work, me having my kids in daycare when I'm working at home, it's as much a safety issue for them as it is work requiring me to do it. If I'm working and my 18-month-old's running around, the odds of her getting hurt are a lot greater. So having them in school while I'm at home, it's as much from that perspective as getting my work done. When the pandemic began, our daycare actually stayed open the whole time. But with the fear and everything, I did pull them out for a few months. And thankfully, my mom was working from home as well. And two of us would rotate off taking care of kids, getting our work done. And I mean, daycare is not cheap, but if I'm going to be working full time, yes, they cannot be on. It would not work out from work perspective or from a kid's perspective. It would not be good for them.
Kathy, I'm going to pick on you a little bit unexpectedly, but this is the first time that we really talked about hunger in this commission. For those of you who don't know, Kathy Webb is the director of the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance. We have a big fundraiser tonight. We're very excited to be back in Little Rock for that. But can you just, Cassie gave very poignant examples of her own and some friends. Can you give us some things from your perspective that you'd really like for us as the commission to take away from her remarks?
Allison, can you repeat the last part of the last sentence? I didn't get that.
What would you want us to take away from Cassie's presentation?
And thank you for asking that. I think a lot of people don't realize that college students are hungry. We talk about K through 12, and most people in Arkansas are aware of that. But I don't think they realize that there's really an epidemic at the college level. And Senator Elliott was recently on a panel that Cassie moderated. And I think one of the things that we have to take away is the fact that we're losing young women who could be going into the fields that we're talking about. Cassie mentioned some of the really important things like not being able to concentrate in class, skipping classes, and then sometimes those things snowball and you end up dropping out. And I think the other important thing for us to remember is a lot of the students who are most affected by this are our first generation students. And a lot of those students are our minority students. And a lot of those students are females. So it is an inequitable situation. And it is a real barrier to success for these young people moving forward. So Allison, thank you for raising that question.
Thank you. And I wonder, Dr. Salazar, do you have commentary from Henderson State and what you see in your community?
No, it's just what we're seeing across the nation. Not too long ago, I think it was maybe like a month ago, we went to this hunger forum. We got $1,000 and my students were ecstatic just to get that $1,000 grant because, it's going to benefit other students. We have a small pantry, food pantry on our school. The stigma is still attached to it, right? Who goes in there, who gets out with food. And so it's very secretive how they manage it, but just $1,000 goes a long way that we're allowed to buy some food and, and just to be able, there are some resources out there. It's just, is not centralized information, right? So I just find out about that forum because of a faculty here say like, hey, this is something that Henderson, might be interested in. I was like, I'm going, right? Like I will go to get that $1,000. And so 2 students went with me, and I guess if I had not been for that faculty, again, the information is sometimes is not decentralized, and we wouldn't have known. And where do you find all this information? How do you get to communicate with communities or colleges that might benefit from grants like this? And through this grant, I found out that we could be eligible to apply for a $5,000 grant, for our food pantry. So I guess even just to share that information with other organizations, with other communities that will benefit as well, could be very helpful. And I wish we had, again, centralized place where we have all this information for everybody to benefit from.
Well, and Kathy, let me come back to you because I know you have the task force on hunger that has a report due at the end of this year. And I wonder if you could just briefly describe that work that you are undertaking now that you have a task force assembled.
Thank you. And we appreciate that the governor funded the task force and also appointed some really outstanding people. And Senator Elliott also gave me some names for the task force. We've engaged the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation to help us do our work. And Kenya Eddings is the vice chair of the task force. And she and I have been having a number of conversations with people who have funded successful grocery stores and food deserts in Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama. And in Pennsylvania, and we're learning a lot more about the fact that we're going to have a variety of options available for people to solve the issue of food deserts. The days of being able to just call one of our larger grocery stores and say, hey, we need you to go put a grocery store in X, Y, or Z, those things are not going to happen. So we're excited that we're going to bring a variety of opportunities, we hope policy options, to the governor before the end of the year. We've talked to some of the folks who were at the last meeting, and we're going to be in communication with them. And if anybody is interested in providing input or has someone we should speak to, if they would send me an email or a text, we would follow up with that. We have everybody on the same page and from a variety of sectors. And so it's an exciting opportunity for our state to actually make progress on access to food.
Thank you. Gayatri, I'm going to call on you as well. You may recall Gayatri runs the subcommittee on family caregiving. We talked a lot about childcare today. Gayatri, any last little bit of information you want to eke out from our firsthand experts here on their experiences?
No, Allison, I don't have any specific questions, but I do really want to thank all of the speakers, in particular, you single mamas. I was raised by a single mom, and it was really powerful to hear your stories today. So thank you for sharing them with us. I also just appreciate you underscoring the role that childcare and access to childcare and quality of childcare plays in your experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 minutes. I got time for one last question before we wrap up. Okay, you guys have information. Okay, wonderful.
Approximately 2 years ago, the Arkansas Department of Education, through their data center, put together a statewide resources portal, and all of our divisions within the Division of Workforce Services have their information on this portal. It provides resources for childcare, transportation, etc. It's listed by, you can search by county or by region or category. I will send that out to the members of the commission, and please post this link on any and share with any resource guides that you have or organizations. It is ADE data.arkansas.gov. So I'll repeat, ADEDATA.arkansas.gov. And I encourage if you have any resources that you provide statewide, to please post them on this site. And this encouraged me to look at our information to make sure it's current and updated. So we list all of our resources all of our offices, who to contact, et cetera. So please share this, and especially within Career Pathways across the state, to make sure that you look at this resource because there's a lot of good information there. Thank you.
Just a point for research and writing, this information probably needs to be part of our report, so we can make sure that as we send the report out, people have those.
And for those of you who are in the room from Mount Hope in particular, you'll be added to a sort of interested parties distribution list that I send emails out on at least a monthly basis. You're welcome to tell me you don't want to be on it. I'm happy to take you off. I'm happy to add more people. We accept all comers in Arkansas. So please feel free to share that widely. I'll make sure that the information that Dr. Childers just gave us on this data, on this resources site is available to you via email. Let me personally thank you, and on behalf of the commission, for those of you who are special guests, we really appreciate your experience, sharing your experiences here today. It will enrich the report that goes to the governor and to the legislature and help us make recommendations that will be actionable for those entities as they think through policy solutions. So thank you so much for your time and your energy and for your commitment to your communities. I want to thank ASU Mount Hope for hosting us, Dr. Lloyd, Molly, Fred, thank you so much. We've become new best friends. I'm so delighted to know you now. And for the commissioners, our next meeting, as I mentioned in the beginning, will be in July in Pine Bluff. We'll have more information about that. And for any of you in the room and online, as I said in the beginning too, these meetings are open to the public, and then they are archived on our website. So if you want to see what other work is being done by the commission, all of these meetings are in video archive on our website. It's just women.arkansas.gov, very easy to remember. I'll include that in the email as well. And then of course, I remain a resource if you have questions or you have additional things that you want to send back to us. I mean, one last plug, the survey on the women.arkansas.gov, there is a survey that you can just take online. It's anonymous. The only thing we ask is that you enter your zip code so that we have some validation that you're an Arkansas resident. But it goes deeper into some of the barriers that you may have experienced, including financial, faith, economic, you name it. So we want to hear from you. I encourage you to take that survey and to share it with others, because again, even as anonymized data, that will help us gather what we need for the report. So thank you very much, and wish you guys the rest of this beautiful day. Thanks, commissioners.